Some major NFL news surrounding Dexter Lawrence has hit the NFL, just kind of overall wave. And on today's episode of Jags Now, we're going to be discussing the possibility of James Gladstone potentially trading for Dexter Lawrence. Welcome into the show. If this is your first time tuning in, I want to welcome you in, whether you're searching us up, whether you were recommended by the YouTube algorithm. I just want you to know that we've got you covered when it comes to all things Jacksonville Jaguars. And if the Jaguars do make a trade, whether it's for Dexter Lawrence, whether it's for somebody else, we will have a video made here on the channel. So make sure you turn on those notifications, hit that subscribe button to never miss out on the latest news and rumors surrounding your Jacksonville Jaguars. Without any further ado, let's get into today's show. Could Sexy Dexy be on his way to Duval County? We're going to be talking about it on today's show, as Dexter Lawrence did officially request a trade from the New York Giants yesterday, and figured I'd hop on here and talk about it in terms of could the Jaguars be interested in play. Now, I want to give credit where credit's due, because a Packers blogger by the name of Easton Butler originally kind of had a tweet that kind of sparked the interest for this video, and he had this to say on Twitter yesterday. Several teams have called the Giants about star defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence, with some including the Packers, Bears, Jaguars, and Bills, per source. A Quinnen Williams-type trade to start a conversation. If traded, Lawrence will be moved prior to the draft, but isn't expected to be moved regardless of the public trade interest, trade request, excuse me. And we'll kind of dive into the nuts and bolts on what Dexter Lawrence could be worth, what a trade would look like, but just want to kind of run through the sequence of events yesterday, and then we're going to round it out with kind of what I think the Jaguars could offer as a potential trade for the former first-round pick out of Clemson. Here's Adam Schefter, who kind of broke the original news. He had a couple of tweets that I just wanted to read to you guys in terms of Dexter Lawrence. Sources: Giants All-Pro defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence has requested a trade, and he will not be participating in the team's offseason workout program that opens Tuesday. Lawrence and the Giants have been through 2 off-seasons attempting to negotiate a contract reflecting his value to the Giants over the last 3 years, but there has not been any progress per sources. Dexter Lawrence has 2 years remaining on his deal and is currently scheduled to make $20 million this upcoming season. Initially, there had been some optimism that with changes in the organization, discussions could move forward. But now that they haven't, new Giants head coach John Harbaugh will open his team's offseason program Tuesday without one of its best players. And my initial kind of reaction reading that is, wow, John Harbaugh, I mean, that's first major decision, what to do with Dexter Lawrence. Now, is this a play for, a new contract with the Giants? Does he actually want to be traded? That remains to be seen. And look, Dexter Lawrence, while he didn't have the greatest year statistically last year, I still think is one of the better defensive tackles in all of football. I mean, you see the numbers on your screen: 32 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, only half a sack, 8 quarterback hits. He did have 34 total pressures, you see there at the bottom of your screen, but had a really successful pass rush run rate. I think he had a pass rush run rate of 14%, and it just didn't quite put it all together. And it's really tough to measure defensive tackles' kind of impact at times when looking at just the raw statistics, because what they do in terms of, contributing in the run game, contributing as of eating up blocks, and even just kind of winning your one-on-one matchups whenever you do eventually get them, because this doesn't always happen. I mean, Dexter Lawrence is a guy that still gets double teamed and even triple teams at times consistently, even with all that talent that the Giants have along that edge rushing group. I still think he's one of the best defensive tackles in all of football. I think he is one of a handful of guys who I still think at 340 pounds, the way he's able to move and disrupt the pocket from an interior position is something that just doesn't grow on trees. And if you're the Jaguars, who that was one of your biggest needs last season, is getting that interior pressure and consistently getting home from the interior with Eric Armstead and Devon Hamilton and others, I think Dexter Lawrence could transform this defensive line for Jacksonville heading into what hopes to be a Super Bowl challenging campaign. And Lawrence, I think by PFF's grades, and again, PFF's not everything, graded out really well. 75.6 overall grade, 84.5 pass rush grade, had about an average run defense grade, although that's still, above average. 50 is about average. But I still think Dexter Lawrence is somebody that, as he's getting closer to that 30-year-old age, is one of the better defensive tackles in all of football, as I previously mentioned. And, I think sometimes the numbers can be deceiving, but there are some numbers that still back him up. Bobby Skinner, who does a Giants podcast, does great work, kind of covering the team, had this tweet that I thought really kind of summarized Dexter Lawrence's impact, as it were. Dexter Lawrence, from Bobby Skinner, was 7th of 121 defensive tackles in pass rush win rate in 2025, his terrible down year. Like, he's still consistently getting in the backfield, disrupting. He just didn't finish a lot of plays, which, again, pressures I think we all can agree are more valuable than sacks. I mean, sacks are essentially just a rebound in basketball. Like, you still have to finish the possession, you still have to finish the play whenever you have a pass rush rep. But just because Dexter Lawrence didn't necessarily always finish and grab that quote-unquote rebound or get the sack, whether it was being finished off by Brian Burns or Kayvon Thibodeau or whoever it was, he still was very impactful for the Giants last year. And I think he could be very impactful for whomever he plays for on defense in 2026 and beyond. And I just want to get y'all's opinion on Dexter Lawrence. Where would you rank him amongst the NFL's defensive tackles? Let me know down in the comment section. If I'm just doing it off the top of my head, I mean, he's still a top 5 guy. I mean, obviously Chris Jones, and there's still some big names that are contributing at a high level. Sexy Dexy, to me, is still a top 5 defensive tackle in the NFL. Now, getting into the financial side of things, because that is going to be a big part of the nuts and bolts of this kind of trade discussion. Spotrac, I thought, did a really great job tweeting this out yesterday, saying, trading for Dexter Lawrence, the new team acquires $20 million in 2026 and $19.5 million in 2027. The Giants have a dead cap number of $13.9 million, but they do have $13 million in savings, so it kind of cancels out there roughly. And then they also followed up with this. Assuming an extension is involved with Dexter Lawrence, which if you're trading for Dexter Lawrence, you would give him an extension, in my opinion. Dexter Lawrence currently projects towards a 3-year, $82 million contract per Spotrac's model, and that's to be expected, right? Like, he's one of the better defensive tackles. He's looking for a new contract. It's kind of sparked this whole trade request thing. And personally, like, when you look at some of the highest paid defensive tackles in all of football, I don't know if he's quite at the level of resetting the defensive tackle market, as Chris Jones clearly is just the outlier in this kind of graphic that you're seeing on screen at $31.75 million per year. But I'd be very comfortable if I'm trading for Dexter Lawrence, giving him anywhere from $26 to $29 million per year on a new deal. I think he's that impactful. And I like what Milton Williams has done. I like, a lot of those guys on this list in terms of what they can provide to a defensive tackle room. Dexter Lawrence is right up there with any of those names. And I think that financially, right, the Jaguars, they just extended Travon Walker. Now, those numbers haven't been finalized per Spotrac and over the cap in terms of exact numbers, but the Jaguars created roughly, per Spotrac, about $11 million in cap space. They still are looking to extend Parker Washington and Brenton Strange. There's some other moves that they can make, maybe some other restructures. So financially, right now, the Jaguars, it's listed at about $5 to $6 million of cap space. But once the Travon Walker deal goes through and then the other moves that they could make, they could easily make the cap space to acquire Dexter Lawrence. So from a financial standpoint, that, and also if you gave Dexter Lawrence an extension, rather, you can make it work financially in terms of fitting him under your cap. And that brings us to kind of the big question and really the crux of this video. What would it cost to trade for Dexter Lawrence? Because, if you're valuing him where, again, we're seeing trades, this offseason and trades that haven't gone through where guys are getting dealt for very expensive price tags. I mean, DJ Moore, who was kind of at the end of his rope as an NFL wide receiver, went for essentially a second-round pick to the Buffalo Bills. I mean, Max Crosby, the trade that did not happen, but when it was originally accepted, went for 2 first-round picks, and he was coming off a knee injury. And you kind of sit there wondering, okay, what could a market be for Dexter Lawrence? Jordan Renan, who covers the Giants for ESPN, had an opinion that I thought was really interesting. Said, asked around the league, and the general consensus appears to be that if the Giants were willing to trade Dexter Lawrence, the return would be in the range of a late first-round pick to a second-rounder. If that is what it costs to get Dexter Lawrence, sign me up. I mean, 56, and then it's not quite a early second-rounder, maybe like the Giants would want. Throw in like a day 3 pick and get Dexter Lawrence on this football team. Now, I think what's probably more likely is what Ryan Dunleavy, who is an NFL reporter, does a really good job covering the Giants in the NFL, had a different opinion than Renan, saying there's an obvious recent comp for Giants Dexter Lawrence trade. The Cowboys traded a first-rounder, a second-rounder, and Mozzie Smith, who was essentially a throw-in, for Quinnen Williams. Is Dex worth that? First reply from a league source, he's a better player, so yeah. And then he got a second reply saying he's worth a late first-round pick plus a day 2 pick in 2027. So if I had to guess, the market's probably somewhere in the middle of where Dunleavy and Renan are saying. in terms of value for Dexter Lawrence. And again, Quinnen Williams, another example of a guy who at the NFL trade deadline, I think a lot of us, whenever that trade initially went through, again, Sauce Gardner, another one that went for 2 first-round picks, where trades just went through for players that at the surface level, we thought it was a crazy amount, but maybe that's just the way the market's trending in the National Football League. So I cooked up a trade, and I want you guys to get down in the comment section below and let me know, would you do this trade? In return for getting Dexter Lawrence to Jacksonville, I would send the Giants the 2026 second-round pick, your number 56 overall pick this year, because obviously you don't have a first-round pick due to the Travis Hunter trade, and a 2027 second-round pick. Now, I have a funny feeling that teams could offer a first-round pick this year for Dexter Lawrence, and you might get outbid per se, but I think that's a very fair offer that the Giants would be willing to consider. And if you're able to get Dexter Lawrence paired up with Travon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen, fireworks. I mean, it would be an absolutely electric unit for a defense that was already phenomenal last year, and you get that interior kind of presence in Dexter Lawrence, and only makes those guys on the edges jobs that much easier. Man, Jacksonville might be back in 2026 if that were the case. But you guys let me know down below in the comment section whether or not you would do that trade, and if you guys think that Dexter Lawrence will get traded this offseason, let me know down in the comment section below. And that is going to conclude this episode of Jags Now, presented by Chat Sports. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until we see you on the next one, peace out.